The moment the lights softened and the wide stage of Tanghalang Manila came into view, the atmosphere inside the theater shifted. The audience sensed that something unusual was about to happen. From the side entrance emerged Miguel Santos, a quiet yet confident Filipino animal trainer from Quezon City. He wore a neatly pressed barong Tagalog, a subtle symbol of pride and respect, and walked toward center stage with calm determination. Behind him, several covered enclosures were rolled in slowly, their contents hidden but clearly alive, drawing curious whispers from the crowd. Cameras zoomed in as the iconic judges' table came into focus, with Simon Cowell resting back in his chair, arms crossed, wearing an expression that blended curiosity with unmistakable doubt. Luis Manzano, serving as host for this Philippine-adapted edition of America's Got Talent, greeted Miguel warmly and asked the familiar question about his dream. Miguel spoke humbly, explaining that he had grown up surrounded by animals and believed they deserved to be seen not just as pets or performers, but as partners capable of discipline, emotion, and trust. His voice was steady, though the weight of the moment was evident. He shared that his goal was to show the world a different side of Filipino talent, one built on patience, respect, and deep connection. The audience responded with supportive applause, though some faces still reflected uncertainty. Simon leaned forward slightly and asked the question everyone was thinking: why animals? Miguel smiled and answered that animals, much like Filipinos, respond best when treated with kindness and consistency. He added that what the judges were about to see was not forced or scripted, but the result of years of training rooted in mutual understanding. Simon nodded slowly, clearly unconvinced but intrigued enough to let the performance continue. The tension in the room thickened. As stagehands carefully removed the covers from the enclosures, silhouettes became visible: a medium-sized dog pacing calmly, a brightly colored parrot perched confidently, and a small pig standing alert. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Animal acts were nothing new, but something about the animals' composure felt different. They were not frantic or confused, they appeared focused, almost aware of the massive audience watching them. The music cue had not yet begun, but the silence itself felt dramatic. Simon exchanged a glance with the other judges, raising an eyebrow as if to say, "This could go very wrong." Miguel took a deep breath, placed his hand over his heart briefly, and nodded toward the band. In that instant, before a single trick was performed, the stage held a powerful stillness, an unspoken challenge between doubt and belief. The audition had not even started, yet the room was already captured, balanced on the edge of something unbelievable. As the first notes of music filled the Tanghalang Manila, the stillness on stage transformed into motion. The rhythm was unmistakably Filipino, a modern fusion layered with traditional percussion that echoed through the hall. Miguel Santos lifted his hand gently, not with command but with invitation, and the animals responded instantly. The dog stepped forward first, moving with surprising grace, its paws hitting the stage in perfect timing with the beat. What began as simple footwork quickly evolved into a coordinated routine, drawing immediate cheers from the audience. This was not chaos or luck, this was precision. The parrot suddenly took flight, circling above the stage lights before landing on a tall stand near the judges. As it opened its wings, it let out melodic notes that blended seamlessly with the music, mimicking a Kundiman-inspired tune. The crowd gasped, then erupted into applause. Simon Cowell's posture shifted, his arms uncrossed, and he leaned closer to the table, eyes fixed on the stage. His earlier skepticism was visibly cracking. Miguel moved smoothly across the floor, never raising his voice, using only subtle gestures and eye contact. The miniature pig rolled a small prop painted with bright festival colors, spinning it flawlessly before stopping at center stage. The choreography now clearly referenced Filipino celebrations. The dog's rhythmic movements echoed the energy of Cebu's Sinulog Festival, while the pig's controlled spin symbolized the abundance and joy of Davo's Kadayawan. The performance felt less like a series of tricks and more like a living story told through movement. What stunned the judges most was the connection. The animals never looked confused or stressed. They watched Miguel closely, responding not out of fear but trust. When the tempo of the music increased, so did the complexity of the routine. The dog leaped cleanly through hoops, landing without hesitation. The parrot timed its wing flaps perfectly with dramatic musical accents, and the pig bowed slightly, earning laughter and cheers from the crowd. Simon shook his head in disbelief, a rare smile forming at the corner of his mouth. Halfway through the act, the music softened, and the lighting shifted to warm gold. Miguel knelt, and all three animals gathered around him, creating a powerful image of unity. The audience grew quiet again, emotionally drawn in. This pause made the final sequence even more explosive. As the beat returned stronger than before, the animals separated and performed simultaneously, each in a different part of the stage, yet perfectly synchronized. The coordination felt almost impossible. The final pose came abruptly. The music stopped. The dog stood tall, the parrot spread its wings, and the pig lifted its head proudly. Miguel stood between them, hand over heart. For a split second, there was silence. Then the theater exploded with applause. People stood, cheering, some visibly emotional. Simon Cowell rose slightly from his seat, clapping slowly at first, then more firmly. His expression said everything: shock, respect, and genuine admiration. This was no novelty act. It was discipline, culture, and storytelling woven together through trust. In that moment, it was clear the performance had crossed a line from entertaining to unforgettable. The animals hadn't just taken over the stage, they had conquered it. When the applause finally began to fade, Simon Cowell lifted his hand, signaling for quiet. The room settled instantly, every eye returning to the judges' table. Simon leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, his expression serious yet undeniably impressed. He took a brief pause, as if choosing his words carefully, then looked directly at Miguel standing center stage, still breathing heavily from the performance. "I'm going to be honest with you," Simon began, his voice cutting through the silence. "When you walked out with animals, I expected something very predictable. I thought this would be another act we've all seen before." A few nervous laughs rippled through the audience. Miguel nodded respectfully, listening. Simon continued, his tone shifting. "But what you just did completely surprised me." He explained that he had judged thousands of acts across different countries, cultures, and formats, and very few managed to feel genuinely new. "What made this performance stand out," Simon said, "was not just the difficulty of training animals, but the emotional clarity of the act. Those animals trusted you," he said firmly. "They weren't scared, they weren't confused. They were connected to you." He pointed toward the stage. "That kind of connection cannot be faked." Simon then spoke about how the performance carried a clear Filipino identity without needing explanation. The rhythm, the movement, and the symbolism all told a story that felt honest and grounded. "You brought Manila, Cebu, and Davo onto this stage without saying a word," he said. "That's storytelling at its highest level." The audience applauded again, louder this time. He admitted that moments like this were the reason the show still mattered to him. "This is why this stage exists," Simon said. "To discover talent that reminds us why we love entertainment in the first place." His voice softened slightly as he added, "You didn't just train animals. You showed respect, patience, and pride. And that is powerful." Turning to the other judges, Simon nodded knowingly before delivering his verdict. For me, this is a clear yes. The crowd erupted as Miguel covered his face, overwhelmed with emotion. Simon smiled and concluded, "What you gave us tonight was unforgettable. Remember this moment, because the world just saw something truly unbelievable."